XRP holders are also human beings. So when you see the price of an asset with this much of potential going to the downside without reflecting the real value or the true value for that asset, don't be in the denial and never forget this, because when I say a huge amount of fundamentals is being backed for this particular asset, I can actually show you guys that in documents, documented facts, from governmental documents, high-level corporate documents and all, which represents the use case for this particular technology. And then I would like to show you guys something interesting here.
In the world. The joke in my world is that if you wanted to move money from America to Australia, the fastest way to do that is to load it in a suitcase and put it on an airplane, which is a little bit crazy in the US, right? So to me,
it's interesting. It's, kind of copying the words of Brad or kind of learning directly from Brad. Listen what Brad says here.
So today, if Morgan wanted to send $10,000 to London right now, the fastest way for her to do that is to drive to Newark or JFK and fly it there. Our view is, in a world...
So when Brian Brooks says this is a joke in their world, I understand which is the world he's referring to, right? Now we can easily understand this is the world he's referring to, right? And then when we continue watching this video, we get more information about central bank digital currencies being issued by private entities.
What has to happen is there are faster solutions, and they exist in other parts of the world. So the UK, Singapore, China, many of our global competitors have adopted real-time payments. In the US, that seems to be still years away, unless we allow existing technologies to do the work for us. And I think that's very possible.
Brian, how quickly can you do this? How quickly can you achieve this, given, as we've discussed, there are existing resistant points, and they're pretty powerful in this country?
Well, they are, Julia, but in the world, there's nothing more powerful than markets, because markets represent what millions of consumers want every day. And so my job is not to build new payment rails. My job is to identify impediments that make it harder for people to get what they want and need. And at the OCC, we have an ability to do that. So among those include the questions of, should banks be allowed to participate in the cryptocurrency market at all? Should banks be allowed to connect to blockchains? Should we have central bank digital currencies, perhaps issued by private companies, but backed by bank deposits? I can identify what the impediments to that are and try and solve that so people can get what they want as they express through markets. I think that's very possible.
Brian,
So that is really important. She asks, the US has a lot of resisting points, and the reply from the OCC guy, Brian, is like, there is nothing more than the market. If the market needs something, it's gonna be there. And that is when you have to understand how many exchanges are operating or providing the option to trade XRP, buy and custody XRP. So, if you are allowed to trade a digital asset which has this kind of utility, that's going to be cool. Now, the next thing is they are looking at central bank digital currencies in a manner that it can be used by the financial institutions, private financial institutions. And for that, I would like to take you guys here in IMF's document, in which they kind of talk directly about that. Say, when they are looking that particular aspect, I will direct you guys directly into page number 43. So what is happening here is that, say, when this is also from IMF's blog, and when they are talking about central bank digital currency, they are answering difficult questions towards governments trying to advocate for what they have to do. They're kind of showing you their direction directly. Now, when I say that, keep this in mind. They always go through these fintech roundtables, and whenever they are trying to push through the modern technology, or at least trying to modernize the existing financial sector, they are kind of showing you guys how to get into the CBDCs, how this can be used, and they always highlight the potential of the financial technology, the fintechs, the fintech companies, the private side of this one. Now, in this particular article, they actually talk about different doubts of general doubts which others can have, like how does IMF view global development of CBDC. So then they kind of reach here and kind of give an explanation that different nations are working on different levels. Some nations are ready for CBDC, some are still conducting the pilot projects with fintechs and other initiatives. Some are still thinking about it, and some states we don't need it right now. So these are the aspects from different nations. Now when we come into this particular document and look at what they are looking at for the real-time payments, say this is page number 43, in which they are talking about risks specific to payment service providers other than payment system overseen by FRB. So they are looking at others payment options and the risks. So the Money Transmission Act at state level are dating back to 1970s. So keep that in mind. The regulations for this money transmission is dating back to 1970s, the 40-year-old system, and it's all connected to that thing. Now, RippleNet is designed as a wholesale payment system without being subject to payment system specific requirements other than requirements posed by banks. So now banks are regulated institutions and they are putting out requirements, right? So there is, however, some limited scrutiny, example by FinCEN and Federal Reserve. There is no dedicated regulatory regime for new type of digital services. Now that is a previous article showing this particular aspect, and here the Brian Brooks from OCC kind of clarifies now what it is required is regulatory clarity, and what we are going to provide you with is also same thing, regulatory clarity. Though that is kind of cool thing to understand if you kind of digest it well. And then in 104, also network or network based application service providers such as RippleNet. So think, whenever you see a government document talking about DLT, blockchain, use case for payments, they are referring to RippleNet. So how can you deny the fact that this technology is here and they are piloting it? Yes, not every one of them is using the digital asset on that platform, but governments, central banks are always slow. Understand, now they can use different services as well on the platform, but once the case like expressed here by Brian comes out, a central bank digital currency, a digital currency or a token, it really needs a bridge asset to move from one to another. You can go through a stable coin, but you have to understand is, can that stable coin be scaled up to that extent when you're going to live for that scale of a country? That huge country would be needing that much scale, and each transaction should be processed immediately with less cost, right? So that is why we are again coming back to DLT network, which is kind of having that all regulatory clarity, like even ISO 20022, which should be the future. It's already there, right? So then we look, they kind of highlight MoneyGram using RippleNet's channel remittance. So they already, this is from IMF, right? So they already understand that the space is changing and the disruptors are really disrupting the space. Now, if they don't do that, the third-party providers would be coming in and kicking out the banks and the traditional guys. So in that aspect, they kind of talk about this in a real area where they see this as changing, because the state level requirements for money transmitters do not cover all relevant requirements. Okay, so now they are kind of making it clear for the financial service providers, the payment processes, to go through different inspections and regulations. Like say here they state money remitters can be subject to multiple inspections per year, deadlines, reporting requirements, financial risk requirements differ from state to state. At this time of regulatory clarity, consider one thing. Say look at the compare with other projects, consensus, say, or Ripple, directly comparing it with them on a stage in front of everyone. Brad stated that we are transparent about how much XRP we sell, and how much we use, how much we escrow, how much we put it back into escrow. Everything is transparent. So when the regulators come in, it's easy for them to adopt that. Whereas look at other projects, they never disclose how much they are going to dump, how much they are dumping, how much they have dumped. So that is where when we see the fintech charters coming in and all, you should be cautious when you're investing in other assets as well. Now, investing in total in general is risky if you don't know about money management, risk management and all. So now let's directly jump into the page number 55 of this particular IMF document, in which they show you this thing. Retail payments. Wow, that's cool. They have a lot of systems. Say Amazon payments, Facebook payments, Google payments, PayPal. They consider everything, but they don't have interoperability there. Okay, anyway. Now coming to the bottom, they show you DLT platforms. Example is RippleNet, IBM Worldwide, Central Stablecoin Network. So here also they mention RippleNet, meaning the networks ability to do that is being recognized. Now, once they enter into the central bank digital currency era, then they need the bridge asset. So that's why I'm saying the wise guys or the wise investors are always early. But the early guys means you have to wait. If you are not patient enough to wait for an asset to appreciate in price, then this is not actually for you. Say, this kind of shows investors are humans too, because you have to understand there is a human psychology, emotions attached to money, especially, which is greed and fear. If you read through this, you'll understand what I'm trying to express here. You are entering into a financial market, and if you can't see that particular thing, then it's going to be really hard for you. Just go into, say, coin market cap or coin paprika and just enter into XRP and then go back down into the markets and look at the number of exchanges which provide you with XRP. If there is no demand for this particular asset, why would they actually do that? They would just be staying back with, like exchanges like Gemini. They'll just offer Bitcoin, Ether and others without offering XRP. If they are in complete denial, or at least they want to show others that this, that asset doesn't have much value, but they would be, who knows, they would be investing in that asset in using other exchanges personally. We don't know that, right? So what you have to understand is, if these exchanges are providing that, why is it changing? So when you look at regulations, jump into Ripple's insight. They talk about that. How the US can pave the way for global digital asset regulation and why it should. Now that was back in July 30, 2020. And here you get this one with that much of clarity. Now, when you talk about US specifically, now that, 15% of US holders are there for crypto generally. Now listen to what Julia asks Brian about this particular thing and how he responds.
Very quickly, I read recently that 15% of Americans now own some form of digital asset or a cryptocurrency. You also want to tackle this and make sure that banks can provide services as far as digital assets are concerned. You're trying to protect consumers again.
Well, look, in a world where 50 million Americans do hold cryptocurrencies and many, many millions more outside of this country do, to me, we can't ignore that phenomenon. So I am not a crypto bull nor a crypto bear, but I recognize reality. A lot of people have this stuff. They have it for good reasons, and we need to make sure it's accessible to them in the same safe and sound way that they can get their checking account. So,
do you really understand the point which he stated? A lot of people have this, say 15% of Americans. That's not a small amount, right? And then when you look at why they're holding, he himself states they have good reasons for holding that. That's common sense. Dollar is going down. The price depreciation of fiat currencies is there. Gold, central banks are buying in gold like crazy. And then at the same time, you are getting central banks printing like they have diarrhea, right? So it's like printing like crazy on one side, just, creating a cloud for the common man so that he won't understand. And the stock market is going to the upside when the economy is in doldrums. They kind of don't understand this. The common man doesn't understand this, right? But you as an investor should be understanding why central banks are investing in gold and printing a lot more liabilities, which is the fiat currency. And then understand, if they are looking at central bank digital currency, it can be backed with the IOU, their central bank reserves or liabilities. Now they have a hell lot of liabilities and reserves in terms of gold. So if they are coming out to back their central bank digital currency using private entities, it's not a big deal for them. And they also understand that huge amount of Americans itself is using into that. Now that's not only it, right? Crypto is a world kind of phenomenon. So in this world of new phenomenon of crypto, you have to understand the crypto world is not small. Right? Yeah, comparing the entire population, it would be. But if you look at the number of individuals using and investing it and spreading the word out, it's kind of increasing. It's getting that multiplier effect already. Now, when you look at this particular thing, I saw some of our comments in my videos asking, can this be done if, XRP is in my custody? If I'm custodying my XRP myself, will I get Spark? Here goes. It's your answer. You can also claim Spark if you self-custody your XRP. So that's not like it's not possible. It can be done, and that's directly from Flare Networks. And then they show this. Flare is delighted to announce that BitTrue Official will be supporting Flare's utility fork for XRP by claiming and distributing Spark tokens. Now this is just from BitTrue, right? So automatically you would be getting clarity from other exchanges as well, and if you hold your asset on that exchange, you would be able to get without any hassle. They will just ask you and provide you with that particular token. Now remember, if you are custodying your assets yourself, and then the question comes like, okay, they are gonna give you that Spark, but if you are using it in a ledger, question is, does your ledger support that particular asset? That kind of being a confusion, right? So at that point, it's kind of good only for this particular aspect. If you have some, say 10, 20, 30% of your XRP on an exchange, you would get something equivalent for that in Spark. And then I saw this from Roses on the Moon, and this is what she's highlighting, which is kind of at least 4 years old, but she's highlighting the point that we have been partnered with these institutions. Now yes, they are mainly for the software and the RippleNet, not directly for XRP. And Santander even recently stated that they are not going to use XRP with the current liquidity and the corridors available, because they are a multinational company with branches around the globe. So if they need to operate as they do in a new system, they need that liquidity. That is the first thing. And the second thing is the number of corridors, which Ripple is working hardly on now. They highlighted they are going to go against the wind and go directly into nations, say for example India. If India is being the next corridor, I can say this for sure, if India is being the next corridor, payments companies or banks who process the payments would jump in. They don't have any doubt, because that is one of the huge, or the first giant market for remittance. If you consider the whole world remittance, it is going towards India, the first majority amount. So when that happens, it should be huge for Ripple as the company, and automatically that adds to the fundamental sides of XRP. Now, along with that, this is also a next fundamental thing. You can see that Ripple partner Swiss UBS bank customers can now use Apple Pay, meaning you are going into a manner of interoperability. So ISO 20022 is kicking in. Automatically, say one bank can use Apple Pay, it's cool, but if there is a payment processor in between you, reducing the scale, the issues related to scalability and fee, then that's gonna be cool here, right? And then you see why Ripple, the company, is expanding. If there is a company like Ripple, which is kind of deviating from their original plan, moving on, moving out, if they are not confident about what they're doing, will they hire guys from these institutions? Ripple hires Goldman Sachs executive director. Now that's actually a huge thing which you don't actually understand if you are doubting the company Ripple and their direction towards XRP. So when I say this, I'm kind of clear, and when I see signs like this, say this one, Bitcoin, there is no alternative, and that too from Mehdi Greenspan from eToro, I don't have much of an answer. I'll just laugh, because in the comments I saw this one. Now if you add XRP in there, what would be the alternative for XRP considering the transaction per second, the fees and all? I think he doesn't actually understand this, or he's also a human being, right? Mistakes can be made by anyone, everyone. So cool. And at the same time, he had to understand this point laid out by Sam here, and I'm completely in agreement with him. POW and POS, the proof of work and stake networks, they are, I told you in last video, right? There is a triangle in which you have to consider governance, security and scalability. These two issues, mainly with the security and scalability itself, they don't have that. They need someone else to come in and provide that. So I don't have much of an answer for that one. I just conveyed my opinion about that. Now, as we talk about the general perspective of crypto adoption in here, like 15% of Americans hold crypto, and then when we see stuff like this, it is changing. The fundamentals are changing. Newcomers will be coming in soon as a new wave itself. Last time, remember, if there was a wave of retail investors who pushed the price to that high, and that is still considering, just say for example, if you consider US, it's still 15%. What would be if another 15% is coming in next 2 years, what would be the price be? They would be coming in, buying and holding and checking what is the fundamental of this asset without even considering that at the first glance, right? They are just looking for profits here. They are not understanding the fundamental of the project, just jumping in. And once the price goes down, then they start to research. Oh, my money is going down. Is my retirement lost? You know, that kind of cycle starts. Then they start getting education, information, and they start, understanding this area of crypto and stay informed. So here the tweet from Crypto XRP Wolves showcased Ripple said, "We are focusing on fund transfer companies that are moving fast and eager to adopt new tech, but eventually aim to introduce it to banks." So automatically, if you understand that well, now in my cognitive ability, what I understand is they will be using, money transfer companies like MoneyGram or others like UAE Exchange and all first. And automatically when they start getting their benefits, they and expand their number of corridors which are available for this remittance market, banks, they would be trying to get back their share of the remittance market, the money transfer market. So automatically when they compete with these payment processes, they don't have any other option. So they just have to go in with ODL, because ODL is live in Europe and US. Now Philippines, Mexico. So automatically you are seeing the future changing. First we only had Mexico, then slowly we were evolving. Now they're targeting India. And if that is connected, say Europe, US, Philippines, Mexico, India, just the Europe to India, US to India, and the Middle East to India would be so huge, because Middle East is already ready for this. And when we say this, you also have to understand now Gemini, they don't offer this thing, our favorite asset. Instead, they're kind of going against it. But looking at the fundamentals, you can understand they're joining Hawaii's initiative, moving into Digital Currency Innovation Lab, meaning everyone is understanding that this is the phenomenon which you can't forget. You have to stay informed and look at the regulations coming in. That is when we can see this tweet from Michael. Ripple's Senior Director Global Operations just stated that XRP is not competing with the cryptos. That is for sure. How can you compete when you are the king of that country? Why would you kind of go and compete with your own citizens? There is no need for that. You would be building the internet of value, which is ILP, through XRP. So that is clear for me. If you still doubt that, you can read that article and this particular thing from IMF here, and the entire document here presented by the IMF. I'll put all these links in the description. So if you want to read through that, it will give you more education about the asset you hold and the fundamental of the crypto sphere. So guys, if you so value in the content, do support the channel, hit that like button. If you are new here and haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do hit that subscribe button. And if you would like to extend your support, I would request you can check the Patreon and PayPal link in the description below, so that it would support the growth of the channel and the research, the quality of research and the standard of the research being executed in the Scientific Investor channel.